Okay, we are talking track with Myckena Guerrerero. She is a well-known reporter, analyst of sports, and now a recent graduate of Sacramento State. McKenna, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm doing really well. Like you said, I just graduated, so I'm really excited to begin this next chapter.
So let's go ahead and start with that. So you just graduated. You're a reporter. You're an analyst. You follow sports. You pretty much do pretty much everything. What's next for you?
So right now, I still work for Sac State, and I'm the sports director for our radio department there. So as soon as that ends, I'm hoping to get something in our field. I know sports are finally about to come back, so I'm really excited to see like what happens with that. So right now, I'm in the process of applying to other places, but I'm just really excited for the future.
Nice. And now to rewind everything, where did sports start with you, and what sport did you play?
Oh gosh. I mean, my whole life I've been either attached to sports or playing sports. Growing up, I played basketball, so that was kind of like my first love. That's where I kind of started really enjoying sports. But growing up, my family is also huge into sports. My mom was a president of a football league and a vice president of another one. So every Saturday consisted of us to the football field from like 7 a.m. to like 8 p.m. doing like everything from like chain gang to snack shack, like passing out equipment. Like we did everything. So that was kind of like what brought my love, especially for football. So that's kind of where that all began.
Obviously you have to know the sports that you're reporting, just not just the sport itself, but the players, understand stats. So how much time do you put into the studying of your craft?
Oh gosh, definitely a lot more than people think. It's a lot more difficult because with what I do and what other reporters do, you literally have like 2 minutes on air or whatever, but it's like literally like 5 hours of preparation, like almost every day before you get to a game or an event. It's like absolutely crazy the amount of work that goes into it, and a lot of people don't see that.
And I started thinking about that too, as you explained, even with a football game, when you're talking about the players on the field. There's 22 players that are currently on the field, but you know their back history, where they've come from, and their struggles, and you tell these stories online. How do you research that?
So what I do a lot of the time is I look at articles on online that people have written. I've looked at other interviews that they have done just to kind of see how they talk, because everybody answers certain questions differently, and you kind of get to know their charisma and how they are kind of off the field. But what I really like to look into is their social media, because social media can tell you a lot about a person. And so like sometimes in my questions, I will bring up stuff that they put on social media or like quotes that they have, just to kind of interact with them, and it catches them off guard, but they're so like happy when they're like, oh wow, you actually really looked into me besides my stats. So that's something that I really like to bring out in athletes.
What kind of led you into reporting?
I mean, like I've always been a huge fan of football. Like football has been my main thing. Obviously, I couldn't play it, don't play it, but it's just something that was a love that I had like forever. I mean, ever since I was a little girl, like we would go to Chargers games, and it was something that, I mean, even my parents were like, she's really into this, like from an early age. So that's something that I just I really loved. And I love just the football family atmosphere. It's different. And it's something that I want to continue to do for as long as I can.
Now, what do you enjoy most, reporting college football, pro, or high school level?
Honestly, my best memories have been with high school. This year was kind of like a bittersweet moment for me, because a lot of the athletes that graduated this year, I had been covering since they were sophomores. So it was such a blessing to see them go from like this little boy to like this grown man, and see them kind of accomplish their dreams. So it was really good for me to see that this year.
Hmm. Who do you aspire to be, or look up to, or use as a point of reference for your skill set?
So one of my mentors is actually Laura Oakman. She works on NFL on Fox. She is such an amazing storyteller, but she's so personable, and she really cares about the athletes and the people that she covers. And that's something that's like deep into my heart, because I feel like everyone that I meet or everyone that I've covered, like I have a love for. So that's something that I want to continue with my career as well.
Mm. Now, was there a history of obviously sports, but reporting or any type of journalism within your family?
No, not at all. I've been the first one, so it's like it's different. Like all my siblings were totally different. My brother's a criminal justice major, my sister's going to medical school, and then I'm a sports person. But we're all huge sports fans, but no one else has done sports journalism or anything.
Now, the past few years, you've been a part of Leap Fest, and it's been great having you there and interviewing the athletes. Now, I noticed that your brother is a big supporter and such that he actually records a lot of your footage. So how does that dynamic work with you guys?
You know, the thing about my family is that I think everybody has helped me with the camera at one event or another, and I think that's what I'm super grateful is my family, because without them, I wouldn't have been able to do half the things that I've been able to do. And my brother has been a huge support, and he loves going to Leap Fest. Like Leap Fest is such an incredible atmosphere, and I love going there every year. It's so great to like be able to see the athletes that I know and to meet others from like around the nation. So that's a lot of fun, but it's great to have that support and everything. And because they invest in me so much, and that's just how my family is. Like we're so close.
That's really good. And so obviously with sports casting and everything, there's a set way of doing things. What do you think that you can bring to the table that's different from other sports casters and reporters?
I think with me, with what I've noticed is that I feel like I have gotten a lot personable in the high school world of things. I think I've brought out a lot of different people's great characteristics rather than just what they do on the field. I really like to focus on what they do off the field, because I mean, when coaches look at that, I mean, they want to see how you are off, because there's been so many incidents lately where character has been a huge part of why certain things don't work out, why certain futures don't work out. So that's something that I like to bring to the table.
Nice. And I noticed recently, it's probably last year, but you were a part of the Northern California, was it a basketball tournament or a league? How did you get contacted in working with them?
Yeah, so they actually found me on Twitter, which was kind of weird. And that's something that I definitely tell a lot of people, especially if they want to get into reporting, put everything out on social media, because you never know who's watching. So yeah, they reached out to me on Twitter, and they were like, "We'd love to have you a part of our events." And so I started doing some sideline reporting for them and freelancing for them. So that was another great opportunity that I got, and that was from putting my stuff out on social media.
Yeah. And so how much of an impact or value do you think it's for club teams and even leagues and schools to hire these staff versus just depending upon the local newspapers?
No, I think it's great, because I mean, newspapers bring out one aspect, but when you see and when you hear people personally, I think it brings out a different kind of light in people. And you see who these, athletes and, these individuals are. And I think that's really important. I always talk about how what people do off the field is sometimes more important when they do on the field. Like you see, all the accomplishments they do, all the trophies they win. But at the end of the day, it's like, what are you beyond that?
Let's go! 5 more! Come on!
Every rep counts. Train stronger, recover faster with Compex Muscle Stim.
When I first reached out to you guys, it was to Max Preps, and you were working with them. So talk about what you've learned and the value that Max Preps actually helped bring to your career.
It was really cool, because before I started working there, I didn't know anything about video editing and stuff. And that's actually what I got hired on to be, as a video editor. So I started off with that, and then I covered basketball a little bit. And then their modern day came up to Levi Stadium to play St. Mary's. and they were like, does anyone want to go cover the game? And my hand was up. I was like, I'll go. Like, I want to go, because I wanted to cover football for so long. So that was kind of like my enter to the realm of football and like interviewing and all that. So that game, and that's why that interview with JT like has always stuck with me and will stick with me forever.
How much extra work before the editing that you have to do to get some of the inside information?
I think it goes back to kind of creating those relationships. And I mean, if you talk to the right people or you know the right people, like you can get certain things. But at the same time, I think it's better to kind of do that research yourself rather than having someone else do it for you, because I feel like that's not the whole point of what we do. Like, this is us being a reporter trying to create, you know, the story and tell, you know, these athletes or people's stories. And at the end of the day, you have to do that research yourself. Like, you can get articles from other people from media relations or anything, but like those articles are things that everybody already knows. So nobody wants to hear about it again. So that's when you yourself have to dive in deeper into these, you know, people's stories and really bring that out of them.
Yeah. And what do you feel that sports is missing? Because obviously the media outlets are the ones that keep sports relevant, keeps, you know, everything happening in people's eyes. So what is sports missing? What can we improve on?
You know what I really liked during the NFL draft? I felt like a lot of people's stories were told a lot more. And I think that's something that people were like what had been missing for a little while, because I think that people have gotten better at getting to know, you know, athletes and players. Like, I mean, LeBron's company Interrupted is more than an athlete. And I think that's something that they have kind of, you know, taught the world. And I feel like if we can continue that, then, you know, there won't be so much, you know, well, these athletes shouldn't have an opinion about certain aspects, because at the end of the day, like, everyone's a human being, you know what I mean? And we're all going through quarantine. We're all, you know, doing these things. You know, some people have more talent and more money than a lot of us, but at the same time, it's like we're all people out here.
You talk about, you know, you grew up around football. It's one of your favorite sports to report on. You played basketball. So how do you get in like contact with track and field and understand what's happening and ask the right questions and something maybe you're not as versed in as you are in the other sports?
So the funny thing is, Keinan, I actually did track for one season. Yeah, it was definitely not my thing. They wanted me to do it because it helps with basketball, and that was something that I really wanted to work on my speed. And my trainer told me, well, you should do sprints and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm that fast. Like, I don't think that's something I should do. So I actually ran the mile. Please do not look at my mile time, because that was super embarrassing. Yeah, so I mean, I try to get involved into everything, but that's one thing that I have noticed is that track really does help you with other sports, whether it's football, basketball, you know, soccer. It makes you better, and I think that, you know, that's something that everyone should get involved in.
How do you find yourself transitioning and being a woman in the field?
You know what? That's one thing that there's been some times, especially at first, when I've had some rough experiences and everything, but at the same time, like, you have to have thick skin, and you have to be able to be like, well, you know, if I want to do this, then I'm going to deal with this stuff forever. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's like, you can't think of yourself just as a woman broadcaster. You need to think about yourself like as a broadcaster, because at the end of the day, like, I'm not trying to say that you're trying to outdo all these people, but you have to be the best of the best if you want to, you know, continue in this career. And, you know, there's a lot of men nowadays, they have played the game. So it's like, you have to have something different than they were. And that's one thing that I have kind of seen the difference between men and women reporters. I feel like women kind of dive deeper into people's stories, and men kind of focus on the direct stats and everything of the game.
What would you tell someone who wants to stay connected to sports and then go this route? What should they be prepared for?
Oh gosh. Well, definitely have thick skin. Be yourself. I can't explain that enough, because like I was saying before, I mean, that's something that it's going to take time and you're going to learn, because you constantly think, well, am I saying this right? Am I doing this? But at the end of the day, it's like people want to see the raw you and want to hear your raw and real stories and how you tell them. Like that sets you apart from, person A and person B. So at the end of the day, I think being yourself, staying true to yourself, being a good person, doing it for the right reasons. Don't try to be a reporter because you want to be on TV and you want to be that, that star, because at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's about the people that you're telling their stories. And so, yeah, you get some perks sometimes, but as long as you remain humble and true to yourself and true to these athletes, because it's like once they have your trust, it's like that's so important, and when they have your trust, it's like you're just going to get a better sense of who they are too, because they're going to be raw and real with you if you're raw and real with them. So you just have to be straight up with them and just be yourself and work really hard. And it's not a 9-to-5 job and you're constantly working. You might get emails at like 2-3 in the morning and things are constantly changing. So you have to be up on your game all the time.
Well, Myckena, it was great talking to you. And I'm glad to see that you guys are all healthy and safe. Okay, well, I'll be talking to you soon.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Have a good day.